Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors special meeting for Calaveras County. At this time, is there any public comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Personnel Matter, conference with Labor Negotiator Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association negotiations.
I notice Supervisor Garamendi is not present. Any word about him being tardy or absent? Okay. This moment we'll go to closed session. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry we were late. We were in closed session. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors special meeting for Monday for Calaveras County. Madam Clerk.
Report of closed session. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Personnel Matter, conference with Labor Negotiator Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association negotiations. There was no reportable action taken. As a note, Supervisor Garamendi joined the closed session at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor Platt. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk.
Announcements. This is a time for board members and county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public.
Any board members have any announcements? Supervisor Lutz, your light's on. Do you have an announcement?
Not supervisor, but
I'm sorry. CAO Lutz.
I would be happy to make
Looking
an
in the
announcement.
future.
I wanted to take an opportunity to introduce our fairly new, he's been here about 3 weeks now, Director of Emergency Services for Calaveras County. If Will might stand up, thank you. Will Downs comes to us most recently from New Mexico, has an extensive experience with disaster management, operations, fire management, and I'm really excited to have him on board. I know he's been really digging in, making some great progress with meeting with our community partners, updating some of our plans, and I expect excellent, great things from Mr. Downs. So first of all, welcome, and those in TV land hopefully can see you, so at least they might recognize you when you're out meeting with community members.
Welcome aboard. Any further announcements?
We have one.
Supervisor Mills.
Copperopolis will be holding a Veterans Day Parade this Saturday, and I will be on the Calaveras Animal Disaster Assistance or Shelter Float, if anybody's looking for where I'm going to be.
Okay. See no further announcements? Madam Clerk.
Public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment for any item that, once again, not on the regular agenda. Is there any public comment? Mr. McManus. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Board. What I wanted to go over was quickly a couple items relating to what may be happening in the future. The first item I want to address would be what we call the Tofinelli Plan, which is the ordinance that's being worked on to become the operative ordinance going forward. We have two suggestions to make if someone wants to take note of that, and that would be in Section 3 under Findings. Paragraph A, where it states the Federal Controlled Substance Act 21, all that, defines marijuana as a drug and then something high potential for abuse and all that. We feel in the interest of honesty that this statement should not appear in any future ordinance coming forward, because you're clearly stating that marijuana is illegal under federal law within an ordinance that's trying to control it or allow it. So this has just survived many ordinances, cut and paste, I'm sure, boilerplate.
Bill, can you move the microphone up a little bit?
Ooh, can I touch it? It says do not touch the microphone. I don't want to get in trouble.
You're going in and out.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The next one would be paragraph B, which states that under the Federal Controlled Substance Act makes it unlawful under federal law to cultivate, manufacture, and do all those kinds of things with marijuana. Again, in the interest of honesty, we'd like to see that statement removed. Either that or replace these statements with a clear will of the board that you don't care about federal law and that you will be doing ordinances without regard to federal law. So that would be honest. So we're just asking that that be done and go from there. The second matter that I wanted to bring up is what appears to be the glide path of the ordinance going forward that may take us beyond the beginning of the year. I want to at least say it to the board that on January 2nd, the state of California, Prop 64 goes into effect, and it's our opinion that anyone who has an application will be allowed to apply for a state license. I brought this up at the Planning Commission meeting. A representative from County Council said that's not true, that the urgency ordinance would prevent that. We believe that County Council is mistaken. The urgency ordinance is a regulatory ordinance. It doesn't prohibit cultivation. It merely modifies it, which works hand in hand with AB 266 and 64, that counties, cities and counties jurisdictions have the ability to modify Prop 64 standards. So it would in effect complement that and continue on until February 14th, at which time, if you don't have an ordinance, all state law takes over and the county would have no jurisdiction at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Good morning, Al Segala.
Morning, Mr. Segala.
Speaking for myself, I was able to review Gary Tofinelli's contribution at the last meeting, and he's put a lot of thought into this, and some parts of it really make sense. Other parts would have a tendency to continue the black market, which is created by banning anything. The parts that that are really, I thought, badly needed and should have been done way before is the testing of the runoff areas, especially those areas in the county that have a lot of marijuana grows presently. This should have been done a couple of years ago, and it doesn't seem to me, I'm not an expert, but it doesn't seem to be so expensive that somebody can't go out there with a test tube and then test the streams. And if one or more of the streams do show contamination, then the next step would be go upstream on that stream and find out what the source is and directly get a hold of the problem. You know, now it's not too late. It still should be done. And but anyway, so Gary's recommendations of testing are really really wise and thoughtful. Other ones, a good deal of his suggestions are really a quasi ban, making the requirements so strict that nobody would likely apply and would remain in the black market. We apparently have between 1,000 and 2,000 grows now, of which maybe less than 200 are registered. Of those grows that are registered under the emergency ordinance, we're told by experts that there isn't any pollution problem and very little, if any, crime problem. So we've done things right. We need to capitalize on that. It seemed like if we want to have a peaceful, safe community in the future, we need to expand the number of registered grows, not restrict them. We should consider ending the black market, not expanding it, because the black market breeds crime. Even if the black market, the cannabis black market is not controlled by these Mexican cartels. Whoops.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Segala. Good morning, Ms. Morris.
Good morning. I would just like to say that with regulation, it doesn't stop the black market. And all you have to do is look at Colorado or even Humboldt, who's been trying to manage this situation for years. And their black market continues to expand because regulation is an open invitation for people to come and grow in plain sight, feeding the black market. I would also like to say, I'm one of those people that lives in a community where this is happening, and it has been horrible, not good. Prior to the county welcoming regulation, it was a wonderful community. We could go around, walk the neighborhood, not worry about anything. Our kids could go around the neighborhood safely. I had full use of my property. But once the county started welcoming regulation to the county, I lost full use of my property. I'm unable to walk around my neighborhood. And the people who there's a few that still do, but they carry. Now, I've been told by law enforcement multiple occasions that I need to get my concealed carry weapons permit. I'm not a gun enthusiast. I didn't move to the country to have to live a life like I've been living for the last 3 years come February. 3 years of my life has been destroyed by the county trying to regulate. And I'm speaking for many, many people who'd like to come here and speak out against what's happening in the county, but they're too afraid. Why? Well, it's not because of the good growers, obviously. It's because the majority of the people in our neighborhoods are intimidating and terrorizing to the point where family and friends won't come over, and people are terrified to speak out against the ones that are growing. So before regulation, there may have been a couple of grows in my neighborhood, but at least they didn't come around and terrorize and threaten us. They kept to themselves. But since regulation, things have expanded, quadrupled for the worse for citizens like myself. So I'm hoping that there'll be some sort of closure and I'll know where my future is going before the end of the year. I want to be able to tell my family if they can ever come back to visit me at my ranch. Because right now they refuse to. And I'm not alone. There's many others out there just like me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 2 is from the Planning Department to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution upholding the Planning Commission's denial of the appeal of the Planning Director's denial of commercial medical cannabis registration 2016-461 for John Mendoza on APN 054 004 060.
This is on the regular agenda. Mr. Mauer?
Good morning, Peter Maurer, Planning Director. I received an email this morning from the attorney representing the appellant. He has withdrawn his appeal, so the Planning Commission's denial stands.
Mr. Mauer, what is the status of that appeal? It is withdrawn. We're never going to be, did he reschedule or just withdraw the appeal?
It's withdrawn, so
And
he
all
has no
fees are
right to...
forfeited?
Yes,
So this item has been resolved by the withdrawal of the appeal.
that's correct.
Okay. Comments by the board? Comments by staff? Council, is there any issue we need to discuss? Public comment, please. Any public comment on item 2? Ms. Morris?
All I have to say is, thank goodness.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on meetings they attended at the expense of the local agency at the next regular meeting of the legislative body. This report is required to include meetings attended for which there has been expense reimbursement, mileage, meals, lodging, etc., but may also, at the board member's discretion, include any other meeting attended by the supervisor on behalf of the county.
Who would like to start?
I will.
Supervisor Clyde.
Yeah, I attended Area 12 in Sonora last week, and basically everything's going well.
Okay. Supervisor Mills?
I don't have anything to report out, however, would like to briefly speak to the board for a moment about what our options might be. Regarding the ordinance that has now been pushed back to the Planning Commission, I know that the City of Angels has a meeting tomorrow night to discuss some of their options before December 31st deadline, thinking that that is a line in the sand. I had a chance to talk to the people at the state level about the licensing thing, and I know Peter and I had a brief conversation about licensing here in the county. And we currently have about 181, something like that, current approved licenses or permits, but we also have about 300 that are still pending or somewhere in a file. I know that January 1st or January 2nd, those people will have an opportunity to go to the state and to pick up a state license. That's about 500 licenses in the county. I talked to the state about this, and that's a fluid process in their world. They don't know for sure what they're going to do if a county comes up with, you can't have a license in our county anymore, as to how they're going to go about rescinding licenses that the state would issue. So, we have some options here. We can take back the ordinance and attempt to amend it in our next board meeting and try to get it in place before the end of the year.
Supervisor Mills, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes, sir.
County Council, are we within parameters?
I would just remind the board members that this is purely reporting out and announcements, that we cannot talk about items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board during this time frame that are not on the agenda. So if there's something that it needs a brief poll, you can certainly do that if you would like to bring something back for board consideration at a future board meeting, but there cannot be substantive discussion about an item that is not agendized for today's meeting.
Thank you. I'm not intending to create a substantive discussion with the other members. It's strictly to try to bring back that agenda item, as an agenda item in our next meeting, and have us work on it as a board, trying to get this done before the end of the year, rather than place ourselves in another situation after the first year. After the first year, we can still make substantive changes if we want to, but I would like to have something in place before the end of the year, if it's at all within the willingness of this board to have that discussion and to make that decision before the end of December, which means we have to have it in front of us on the 14th of this month. And I'd ask the board to be polled on that.
Okay. Further comments?
No, sir.
Are you looking for a poll of the board?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand the issue at hand, board members? Supervisor Mills requesting a poll to place that. County Council, you need a comment on this?
Yes, Board Chair, I would like to comment in the sense that, one, I would like to clarify that we do have a regulatory program in place that is in effect. So as far as the December 31st deadline is concerned, we have local rules in place, one. Two, I do not believe that it is I do not believe that staff would be in a position to bring an ordinance forward for board consideration on the 14th because we are still drafting it. And tomorrow is the deadline for items on the 14th's agenda. Or, excuse me, last week. Last week was the deadline to get items on the agenda for the 14th. So we've already gone beyond that deadline. And also, just so the board knows, currently staff is working on bringing the ordinance forward for the Planning Commission's consideration at the end of November. I believe it's November 28th, 29th?
Don't have a meeting that day.
No, Planning Commission. To the Planning Commission, and that staff is intending or hoping to have the whatever ordinance that is recommended by the Planning Commission back to the board in December. So there will be discussion about an ordinance at the board level before the end of the year, and that will certainly be something that this board will be able to consider and potentially adopt before the December, before the end of the year anyway. So I just want the board to know that before taking this poll.
Thank you, Council. Supervisor Mills, does that address your issue?
I still have a grave concern with what the state had told me regarding these licenses, that they have no ability, in essence, or have a fluid situation right now as to how they would give those licenses, take them back if they issued them. And that is the primary concern, is the sovereignty of this county and maintaining our control over who is licensed, and to have a potential of 500 additional licenses fall in our lap from the state level is going to create an issue for us as I see it right now. And that is the concern, and that's why I would like to see us hash it out on the 14th of November and get something in place by the 14th or 15th of December.
And I would just clarify, if the board would like further legal authority and a legal memo on the subject, my office can certainly provide that to the board, but we respectfully disagree.
Okay. County Council, I think that's a very wise decision, if you could issue that memo to the board members. Addressing the issue of polling of the board. Is there any comments before we poll the board?
I think if you bring it back on the 14th, it's still, you make any adjustments to what's in place now, it's going to delay it even further because it still has to go to the Planning Commission. Am I not correct, Mr. Maurer?
There is no requirement that it be referred back to the commission. The commission has weighed in on this and provided a recommendation to you. So that process has been met. You have the ability to take their recommendation and revise the ordinance in any way you see fit. I would say that having it available, I worked over the weekend. I have the first draft done. It's now being reviewed again by County Council, but there's some issues we're still trying to resolve as far as the cap on the number of licensees or permittees and how we can do that. That we're still trying to resolve. So having an ordinance available by the 14th is going to be a stretch. But I don't see that we can do that. I'm sure that we will not have an ordinance available in time for you to review it and the public to review it sufficiently prior to a hearing next week.
Okay. Supervisor Mills, any comments to that?
I don't want to get into a long discussion about the ordinance itself, so it's strictly opposed to whether or not the board would entertain the idea of bringing it back in the next meeting, even with the time crunches involved. Like I said, the City of Angels is going through this very same thing with their council, and there's a lot of other counties that are dealing with it the same way. They're looking at that December 31st date as a line in the sand, and and they're taking it very seriously, and I hope that we are too.
Seeing no further input, Supervisor Tofinelli, are you in agreement with the poll suggested by Supervisor Mills?
To bring this back on the 14th, I'm another question from Peter. If there's any revisions on the 14th, how long would that take you to get it back here? Depending on what and that's a loaded question because you don't know what's going to happen. But, and we're looking at a crunch according to Supervisor Mills. Our county council disagrees with his synopsis. But if we bypass, and we certainly can bypass the Planning Commission on the existing one that we put forward for you to draft, if we're looking at timelines to get something in place, and then we can always bring it back and revise it afterwards. So how long, if we do anything on the 14th, would it take you to get something back here? And don't cut yourself short.
Yeah. I'm hesitant to make an estimate because it's not just me. I'm working closely with county council, with other departments. There's environmental management issues associated with your recommendations, your requirements that we're still trying to coordinate. So, we will do what we need to do to get you a draft as quickly as possible. I just can't, I cannot put a date on that.
I don't know.
Okay. County Council, you have your light on.
Yes, my concern is I want to caution this board because it truly feels like it's going beyond into a substantive discussion of timelines and things that are not on today's agenda. So I just want to caution this board.
Thank you. Supervisor Garamendi, on the poll?
No.
Supervisor Clapp, on the poll?
I like to see it, but I like to see it because I like to put some fingerprints on it. I think I've been cut out of the whole process. I mean, this just dropped on. We had what was coming to the board was a ban, and now we're working on regulations, and I had very little input on that. And I would like to at least have some input on what's going on. And but I understand the 14th is way too fast, but I don't see why we couldn't have it the following meeting after that. So I would be voting no on the 14th just because of legal and what Peter says, but I don't see why we couldn't come back with the following meeting after that.
Supervisor Mills, any further comment?
No.
I agree with council also. Folks, we need to understand something. The final decision rests with these 5 board members. And there's an opportunity to revise what's being presented before us to make that decision by the Planning Commission, by the public, and by various other sources. I think running down a path at full speed when you can make better decisions at a lope might be a way to go. I think the 14th is too quick, and we will have the opportunity as a board to decide on this. I respect Supervisor Mills' concerns. I know there are deadlines that need to be met, but the bottom line is we have to do this properly and we have to do it right. So I would vote no. Continuing with supervisor comments, Supervisor Tofinelli.
Yes, I attended the LAFCO conference in San Diego last week. Very entertaining. I went to most of the classes I went to were what they call, or if you were in college, 101 classes, so I could get a basis on the full draft of LAFCO and what's expected of you and what it's about. But one of the big things they spent a whole day on was, on the main conference, was trying to define your own LAFCO and give it a brand. And I thought it was very interesting because they showed interviews with people on the street and asking them if they knew what LAFCO was. And there was a whole gamut of what people thought LAFCO was, and of course there were the jokes about laughing or what have you. People really in the public do not know what LAFCO is, and the most part, the general population doesn't have much to do with LAFCO and what they do because they don't see it at a level. It has to do with boundary lines of special districts, annexation lines, and those type of things. So the general public doesn't really have any interface with it unless it has to do with your neighborhood being annexed by the city or a developer coming in and wanting to annex the development into an existing water provider or sewer provider or such. Then it comes to LAFCO to define all the boundaries and the uses for it. But it was very interesting, and they were looking for us to come up with a brand and publicize LAFCO in all of our meetings. And part of the reason also was a lot of the LAFCOs, especially in smaller communities like ours, are having trouble recruiting a public member to sit on that commission, and the commission requires public members on it. It's two supervisors, basically two city representatives, and if there's more than one city in the county, then it's generally the two cities that contribute the most for the budget that have the seats on it. And then there's special districts. If there's more than one special district, it's the same thing. The special district generally that provides the most to the budget, contributes the most to the budget, is the one that has a representative on that commission. And then there's public members that sit on it. And so the idea was to get out and put a brand on it and get out the word to the public on what LAFCO is and what we do. And they spent a whole day on that, ideas on it. And I turned to our guy, sitting next to our executive officer, John Benoit, and we kind of agreed, Calaveras County is so small, there's not a whole lot LAFCO issues coming before LAFCO, but we would certainly give it somewhat of a shot to give some type of brand on it. And it's very interesting that the entity that was doing the conference is CalLAFCO, which stands for California League of LAFCO members, and our brand, I thought, would be the original CalLAFCO, since Calaveras CA, so we could brand it as the original CalLAFCO. But we haven't had a LAFCO meeting yet, so I haven't had opportunity to present that. But it was the weather was very warm. First day I got down there, it was like 102 degrees in San Diego, and where they had it, the hotel was right on the beach, and the humidity was tremendous. So it was like 102 and probably 98 degrees humidity, and you stayed inside. So, but otherwise, it was great.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor Toffenelli.
Oh, wait. I do have one more. First Saturday in December, Valley Springs parade, Christmas parade, and the craft fair at the Vets Hall. So, hope to see you there.
Supervisor Garamendi.
Nothing to report.
Finishing up my report, ladies and gentlemen, on Wednesday the 25th, I attended the Calaveras County Visitors Bureau meeting. We now have a sitting chair, but not a voting chair on that committee, which I am part of. And I'm very happy to say that they've done some tremendous work regarding Calaveras County. I would encourage everybody to go to their new website. Very informative, very appealing. There's some issues that we're going to be talking about at their awards dinner, which I will be presenting at Ironstone. That was the vote of the best businesses and things of that sort in Calaveras County, so I'd hope everybody would be able to attend that. I also attended the CCWD line dedication completion ceremonies in Arnold. I'm very happy to see representatives there from government, from utilities from the community. They did a great job getting that project done under budget and under schedule, which was great. They're going to be starting with another phase pretty soon, but I think CCWD is stepping up to the plate, swinging the bat where it has to. I must also inform folks that the Vice Chair, Supervisor Garamendi, and I meet with the Chair and Vice Chair of CCWD on a monthly basis, just to sit down and talk and find out what we can do better as a joint effort, if you will, although they are a special district and they are separate. Just a spirit of communication and the spirit of cooperation on projects in the county, and I think that's been very fruitful. I think it's been a good move.
CPUD shows up as well. CPUD.
What's that?
CPUD shows up sometimes.
Oh, yeah, CPUD, which is the Calaveras Public Utilities Commission, I guess. Other than that, I attended the county Halloween party and was one of the judges. I think I'm going to be checking underneath my car sometimes, but I was very surprised to see the cooperation and the spirit of corps, if you will, of what this county shows in the county and public employees and what the departments did. Folks, we've had some tough roads to go. And to see the participation, I have to personally thank the committee that put that on, especially our board clerk and the folks that participated, and I know that Mark was involved in that. And I really enjoyed that experience, and I would hope that maybe next year we can get another supervisor involved in the judging, and because it was just a great time. And boy, there was a lot to eat. But other than that, I have no further. Any staff comments? Ladies and gentlemen, that'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you for coming.